Ever heard of a country where, like, your religion could actually, like, dictate your career path?
Hmm, interesting.
Yeah, and I'm talking specifically in government. It might sound kind of crazy, but that's Lebanon's reality.
Wow.
Yeah. And with, Israel making moves in the region, everyone's kind of got a spotlight on the region.
Yeah.
We thought we'd take a deep dive into Lebanon's unique, I'll be honest, kind of baffling power structure.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out who's really in charge, who's calling the shots.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, especially now we see, Lebanon's system, it was designed to create this like balance, right?
Right.
But the current situation is showing just how fragile that balance can be, particularly in times of crisis, like
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. We've got to go back to like 1943, right? When Lebanon gets its independence from France. They strike this deal, a power sharing agreement, where government positions are divided among religious groups.
Okay.
President, got to be a Maronite Christian.
The largest Christian group in Lebanon.
Exactly. Prime Minister,
Mhm.
Sunni Muslim. Speaker of Parliament, Shia Muslim.
Mhm.
The idea was to make sure that no one group could dominate.
Right.
Sounds kind of fair in theory, right?
Right. In theory, it makes sense. But here's where it gets really interesting and messy. This system, which was designed to unify, has ironically become a recipe for deadlock and division.
Right.
Imagine a car with multiple steering wheels, each one controlled by a different group, all trying to go in different directions. That's Lebanon's government. And this structure makes it incredibly difficult to respond to crises effectively.
So if everyone's busy fighting for the steering wheel, who's actually moving the country forward? Like, who's
A
actually...
million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to another major player in this whole equation, Hezbollah. Now, they're often in the headlines, usually in the context of conflict,
Right.
but their role in Lebanon goes way deeper than that.
Yeah, I've heard they're almost like a parallel government in some parts of the country. Like, is that true?
In a way, yes. Hezbollah has spent decades cultivating influence, especially in Shia areas. Think schools, hospitals, social services. They provide these vital resources, often filling the void left by the government.
Wow.
So in many ways, they actually operate outside the government's reach.
So they're almost functioning as their own, like, separate entity.
Exactly. In fact, there are even maps created by Stratfor, which is a geopolitical intelligence platform, that show the extent of Hezbollah's influence.
Wait, they have their own WN maps? That's wild. Like, what do those maps tell us about, like, their strategy, their long-term goals?
They highlight just how deeply embedded Hezbollah is within Lebanon's, like, very fabric. These maps often show their control over areas south of the Litani River, which is a region crucial for their operations.
Wow. And this brings us to another layer of complexity.
Mm.
The recent death of Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah.
Right.
Huge news.
Huge. Nasrallah's death and that Israeli airstrike creates a massive power vacuum. This is a man who arguably held more sway in Lebanon than many government figures.
Wow.
His absence throws everything into disarray.
And to make matters worse, this is happening while Lebanon's official government is already on shaky ground, right? I mean, they haven't even had a president since 2022. It's like the entire country is trying to function without a captain at the helm.
Exactly. It's like a ship without a rudder. And this leadership vacuum has devastating consequences for everyday Lebanese people. Imagine the anxiety and uncertainty of living through these events.
Oh, absolutely.
While those in power seem more concerned with their own agendas than the needs of the people.
It's heartbreaking. While these political factions are busy, jockeying for power, it's the Lebanese people who are experiencing the very real and terrifying impacts of conflict, displacement, violence, the loss of their homes and livelihoods.
You're absolutely right. We're potentially looking at one of the largest displacement crises in Lebanon's history, and their government, already weakened by internal divisions, is struggling to respond effectively.
So, like, what does the future hold for Lebanon? Hezbollah, though undoubtedly impacted by Nasrallah's death, remains a powerful force. We know that. The government seems paralyzed. Who will step into this void? And what will their leadership, or lack thereof, mean for the future of the Lebanese people?
Those are the critical questions we need to consider. There are no easy answers, but understanding this tangled web of power dynamics is crucial to even begin unraveling this complex situation.